Hi everyone, here we are for the second lesson of this mini course. In this video we are going to look how to create the most important basic objects in 3ds Max and how to modify their parameters via simple navigation of the command panel. We'll also touch on managing the viewport and learn some simple and practical keyboard shortcuts. I'll start straight away by showing you how the command panel should be interpreted. This panel has a cascading structure. Starting on the top, we can access a series of tabs. As we click on each of these, the relative tools are opened. For now in this lesson, we will only concerned with the first 3 tabs. In the first tab, Create, you can see a small set of icons. These allow us to assess different areas of the creation of objects. In geometry, in fact, we can create basic primitives that I'm going to show you now. The first object we're going to create is a rectangular prism. By clicking on the box button, highlighted, and in the first viewport at the top right, click with the left button of your mouse, dragging it towards to the bottom right to draw the base of the box onto the plane. Once you've reached the desired size, release the left mouse button. Now drag the mouse upwards and you'll see that the box acquires volume. Click again with the left mouse once you've reached the desired height. Finally, right-click with the mouse to finish off. To change the size of the object, go to the second tab of the command panel, the Modify tab. Here we are concerned with changing the size values of the object, length, width and height. For our first contact with 3ds Max, we won't need other parameters. This goes for all the objects we're going to create. So let's delete the object and create a cylinder. In the Create tab, we select the button highlighted and create a cylinder, the same way we created a rectangular prism. The only difference is that we start from the center. Now, in the Modify tab, we can change the values of the base radius and the height. Now let's create a sphere. This object is simpler because to create it you just need to set the size of its radius by dragging outwards from the center. In the Modify tab, for now, only focus your attention on the parameters that controls the radius of the sphere. Now, delete the sphere and let's create a plane. This object is also easy to create. Imagine having to create the base of a box. In fact, the way we modify it is the same. Next, we're going to look how to create and modify shapes. Shapes are the equivalent of Photoshop paths for those familiar with them, while for those who aren't familiar with them, they are open or closed straight or curved lines. These shapes can therefore be used to create complex objects. But we won't worry about that during this course. Instead, let's look how to create them and what parameters to use to modify them. In the Create tab, click on the Shapes icon and select Line. In the first viewport, click various times. Without dragging, to add the vertices of the segmented line. With each step we can see our line taking shape. You can choose to leave the line open by right-click with the mouse to finish off, or close the line. To do that, click again on the first point of the line. The system will ask you if you wish to close the shape. Click on Yes and it's done. In the Modify tab, we then find a whole lot of information which we won't take any notice of, as it's not the subject of this course. Pay attention, however, for the rendering rollout menu. Here, if we select the options Enable in Rendering and Enable in Viewport, we can give the line shape and visibility by transforming it into an adjustable cylinder or segmented box. The same thing goes for the other shapes too. The rectangle, for example, is created like a normal plane. And, as well as the modify options we saw previously, here we can also find the usual parameters for changing the sizes. We close the rendering rollout menu and find what we need in parameters. The same goes for the circle. There's a little difference when we create an arc. Here you need to click and drag the mouse to set starting and end points of a shape. Release the left mouse button and drag the mouse upwards to set the size of the arc. Again, we've the same modify parameters, except for the parameters that modify the opening and closing angles of the arc. Finally, we can create various types of polygonal shapes. By selecting N-gon, we can create an object and decide later how many sides we will have. Now I'm going to introduce some basic concepts regarding the viewports. The viewports, or put more simply the views, are a Cartesian representation of the planes of a three-dimensional volume. In 3ds Max, as in other software programs, they are represented like this: the top view, the front view, and the left view. Finally, there's also the perspective view that showed the three-dimensional image of the scene. In 3ds Max it's possible to completely personalize the layout of the views, just as it's possible to interchange the views in each individual frame. Using several keyboard shortcuts, shown here, we can move very quickly from one view to another. There are also other views available in 3ds Max, such as the right and the back views. These, however, cannot be accessed by using keyboard shortcuts, so you access them by clicking on the second tag in the top left corner. Now I'm going to introduce the navigation feature of the viewport. In the viewport and all above, in the perspective view, it's possible to carry out operations such as panning by clicking the center mouse of the mouse and dragging zooming using the control wheel of the mouse, and finally rotating using the combination Alt center button of the mouse and dragging. These operations, made faster with these shortcuts, can also be carried out using the navigation panel, found at the bottom right of the screen. In fact, several another tools are available in this panel, such as Zoom All and Zoom Extends fit a window. To make the design phase easier, Max also allows the maximization of viewports. In fact, the last buttons maximizes and minimizes the view. For speed's sake, we can simply use the keyboard shortcut Alt-W. The viewports also have a series of display modes to assist the design phases. By clicking the last tag in the top right, we can access different display modes, including edge faces, which make the segments of the objects visible. This is very useful in the modeling phase. And wireframe, an X-ray view which only makes the outlines of the object visible to facilitate the design phases. For example, when importing scene into a Max file, as we saw in the previous lesson, we can test the usefulness of the wireframe view. Let's maximize the view using Alt-W. Then go to the back view so that the frame is occupied by the wall. Here, if the grid interferes with our view, we can deactivate it quickly by pressing G, and finally we activate the X-ray view so that we can see through the wall. As you will notice, it's then easy to move and adjust the objects, even if the viewport is occupied. Obviously, Max makes life easier with the edged faces and wireframe modes too. The shortcuts listed here will allow you to activate and deactivate the various modes to your liking. Let's finish off the second lesson by introducing some very useful tools for managing scene and objects. To do that, let's return to our imported scene. As you can see, the objects now appear colored, but don't worry, that will be the subject of the last lesson of this course. For now, we are going to look at how to hide an object in the scene. To do that, I'm going to introduce the use of the context menus or quad menus. Having selected the objects we want to hide, we right-click with the mouse inside the viewport to open the quad menu. When the menu opens, let's just concentrate on the highlighted sections of the screen. Click on Hide Selection to hide the selected object. Then, returning to the menu, click on Unhide All to show all hidden objects. We can also carry out the reverse operation by selecting the objects or objects we wish to keep in the scene and clicking on the Hide Unselected in the menu to hide all unselected objects. We can also block or freeze an object or several selected objects to prevent them from being accidentally moved or modified. Select the object, then click on Freeze Selection in the menu. The T-port is now off limits for any kind of action, and to unfreeze it, we need to return to the menu and click on Unfreeze All. Finally, if we need to make changes to an object, we can quickly isolate it from the whole scene and work on it separately. In the menu, click on Isolate Selection. To exit isolation mode, just click on the little light bulb icon found on the bottom of the interface. Perfect. That's all for the second lesson. Remember to try out the tools and parameters you've learned in this lesson and the previous. Until the next time, bye.